Welcome back to U.S. Farm Report this weekend. Chip Nellinger and Arlen Suderman joining us. All right, big USDA report this week. Before we get into changes to South America, USDA cutting 50 million bushels from the 2023-2024 corn carryover from last month. USDA raising soybean carryover 25 million bushels from last month. Arlen, were those changes justified?
Well, the cut in corn ending stocks was certainly justified, and they have more to go. Cheap prices do generate demand, and that's happening in corn. I think the bigger cuts yet to come are going to be related to added ethanol demand. If you look at marketing year to date, ethanol use of corn, we still exceed the seasonal pace needed to hit USDA's newly revised target by 98 million bushels. So we could see that ethanol demand go up considerably yet, but we're still going to be above 2 billion bushels. So I don't want to get anyone overly bullish on that. And when you look at the soybean side, they cut exports, as I think that was justified, but they continue to hold the line on crush. And I think they're going to be forced to increase crush, and that's going to pull us back toward that 300 million bushel ending stocks estimate. Still not bullish, but not as bearish as where they currently have us.
So, Chip, was the bigger surprise for you the changes and revisions that we saw to carry over here, or was it the changes that we saw USDA make to South America this month?
Yeah, to me, the biggest surprise were, call it the lack of changes that we saw from the USDA versus some of the numbers that are coming out of like CONAB and the Rosario Grain Exchange in Argentina. The USDA just seems like there's this massive disconnect, still about 500 million plus bushels difference with where CONAB came out on Thursday versus where the USDA came out for the Brazil bean crop. So I think something's got to give there. I think the market's a little bit confused about that. And it is going to have a direct influence, no matter what the crop size is, on our exports. So, I think there's still some unknowns out there as far as what the ultimate crop size is in the Southern Hemisphere.
Well, speaking of something's got to give, Arlen, nothing is giving when it comes to wheat. I mean, we saw USDA raise wheat carryover 25 million bushels. I mean, the hits just keep coming.
Yeah, and that was largely tied to the stocks report on March 28th as the USDA carried that in, cutting feed usage, cutting imports, and so pushing ending stocks up there just below that 700 million bushel mark. And if we get some trend yields for the 24 crop, we're going to continue to add to those stocks and make them bigger. The U.S. is becoming the residual supplier to the world once again. The Black Sea is setting the world wheat price. And even though we've seen Russian prices start to slowly creep higher, Ukraine continues to push wheat out the door at low prices. And so that's really holding down the market. And we're getting very close to the Northern Hemisphere harvest now as well.
Well, we know after the prospective plantings report, after this April report, the market's attention really focusing on weather. When you look at the latest planting progress report, we're going to talk about it later in the show too. But I mean, it is the East versus the West, Chip.
Yeah, it is. And it was last year as well. You look at the drought map that came out this week, still, even though there were some decent rains around there in the Western Corn Belt, still worse setup at this point in the calendar than what we had in 2012. And I'm not saying we're going to have a repeat of 2012 growing season weather, but there needs to be some regular rainfall in that Western Corn Belt during the growing season. Initially, the dry weather may be bearish for planting. It may mean a quick planting pace, but there's a tremendous amount of uncertainty. And tying to your point there, just add on about the wheat, we're going to need some rain in the Black Sea area and in Russia, and we're going to need rain in the Southern Plains to get the wheat crop worldwide across the finish line. So there's still some question there. And then to your point, the question about how is planting going to go and what does this La Nina mean to summer temperatures and rainfall, especially the Western Corn Belt. Tremendous amount of uncertainty there going forward.
Yeah, and meteorologists will admit right now there's a lot of uncertainty with what La Nina could mean. All right. Well, World Weather is saying they're concerned about wheat country right now, especially with weather conditions this weekend. Plus, USDA doing away with a major cattle report. We told you about that earlier in the show. But could that add to the volatility in the cattle market? We're going to talk about that right after the break.